Hello and welcome to another episode of Time of Day, the Transatlantic wargaming podcast, brought to you by Break for Assault. I'm Lee Parnell, recording from somewhere in South England, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Mike from sunny LA.
Good
Mike, is
morning,
it
Lee.
sunny in LA?
No, we're still in our 3 weeks of winter. That's how close it is since the last recording. It's still the very brief window of winter in California, everyone. We're getting better about episodes.
We are. Mike was very excited saying we should get one in before Pete does his next year thing, just make our
Yes.
predictions. I think it. Okay, let's do that. Let's get in. Let's try and be the whole Nostradamus thing and get the whole guess
I am
working.
I have a long-standing history of being a sarcastic psychic, so I apologize for the evil I'm about to inflict on the community.
Oh no. Oh no. That sounds ominous. But yeah, Mike, do you want to talk us through what we're going to be covering tonight?
Right. Well, of course, we have a little bit of cleanup from last episode. You see, as true scientists, we had our findings peer reviewed, and it was determined that we were actually missing some crucial bits of data. So we will be reviewing Iranian recoilless tows and tow jeeps to ensure that we do have the proper scientific stupidest cars in Team Yankee. But then on day of recording, Battlefront dropped some new news about forces.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be briefly going over that and making sure that everyone's informed.
Incident
I know an
outrage.
actual service outrageous. Uh, and then we'll have a brief year in review, and then we will be making our predictions for Pete's yearly Christmas video.
Mm-hmm. What can possibly go wrong with this as a
What
scenario?
could possibly go wrong? Oh,
Lots of things can go wrong. Yeah, so you want to take us through what we missed out on our last tank ranking?
yes. Well, here we are. Obviously, I highly nothing is going to take the spot of the Humvee as the really good as the king winner. Uh Although we might have a new loser if I'm going to be spoiling some things.
You on silent?
So we someone in the comments was kind enough to point out that we had forgotten that Iran had jeeps, and well, can you blame me?
These are your
One
favorite
of them is
thing.
hidden purely in the Basage battalion, which Duncan should have tipped us off on, and one of them was very obvious, and I should have seen. But thank you to the comment section for reminding us. So let's start off with the easy one, the Iranian tow jeep. Uh,
Iranian toes.
it's it's a tow jeep.
Mm-hmm.
They're a point of peace. They're hit on threes. They're skill of 5, absolutely trash. Uh,
But are they? Are they really any worse than the Israeli one? Because the only anti-tank 21 you get in the army, apart from obviously the Cobras,
right.
they are dirt cheap. So I think I still think they're stupid good. For no, yes, they are hit on threes, and yes, that does make them a lot worse. But on the other hand, they're still that anti-tank 21 alpha strike you so desperately need with the Iranians.
You know what? They do have scout.
Mm-hmm.
So I think actually I will concede, and stupid good seems like a fairly appropriate place.
I
Although
mean,
lower down, because for that extra half point, I'd rather be hit on 4s.
absolutely. They are right on the edge, but because they are literally only source of anything, a decent anti-tank that isn't a chieftain or a cobra, they are
Right.
kind of they're still kind
You
of
know,
essential. You can't not have them.
right, right. And
Mhm.
at a point of pop, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So then now we have the 106 mil recoilless rifle jeeps
Mm-hmm.
uh here to go toe to toe with the Anzac recoilless jeep and the Israeli recon jeeps
Mm-hmm.
for just biggest pile of dog shit. So,
I mean, also, I think technically the Swedish recorded the cheap window. We just didn't have a separate picture of it.
is there a Swedish recoilless? Oh my
Yeah, the
god, the
Swedish 9mm.
science is
No,
Why
no,
am I so bad at
no,
science?
we did mention it because
We did mention it. Okay,
the picture has all three of them on there, so it's really hard to split
right,
them off. That's why
right. That's why I
you
messed things
can
up.
just see it nudging in on the actual picture between the two, between the Lurks and Mephisto. You can just see the Night Mill thing on there.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
There it is.
So I am
So
tempted to go Haas F1 because that's where we put all the recoilers.
well,
But
yes, recoilless are bad, and that's where they belong.
yeah, there's one redeeming feature, which is its own box in formation.
Yes, in one formation
Yeah,
that only Duncan runs.
I've seen a few people around Visage. You have to really want to, but there are a few people doing it. But yeah,
Sure,
it's
there are
stupid.
people who have been damaged by society out there, and they should seek help.
Stop, seek help. But I mean, it's stupid bad at absolute
It's
best.
because here's the thing: they're half a point apiece. You can get up to 6 of them. They are hit on 3s though. And they have Scout, which again is just absolutely overridden by Recoilless.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Recoilless is incredibly bad. But they're both accurate, brutal, heat, another anti-keyword.
Mm-hmm.
Same absolutely garbage stats.
Well, he isn't an
Oddly enough,
anti-keyword. It does have one benefit, which is that you don't lose penetration for distance. It's just that in the Team Yankee universe, obviously there's stuff like era and
everything has some kind of like you get super good
yeah.
armor against heat. So it essentially kind of is an
Mm-hmm.
anti-keyword at this point.
Yeah.
It's definitely at best a neutral keyword. Uh, but that being said, actually the Iranian one has better softs it's got better morale and rally
Mm-hmm.
than the Anzac ones at a big hit to skill. I am still loath to put it in stupid bad, but it might be top of
It's
Haas
straddling the
F1.
line. Yeah, it's definitely the best of the Haas F1.
I
It's the
mean,
Hulkenberg of the Haas F1 lineup here.
you are right. Shout outs to the Scorpion Defender in the comments as well. It's like I take 12 of them. They're great. I'm like, bless fam.
Fox, you mean the Fox one?
The
Yeah,
Fox, excuse
yeah.
me. Yes, I'm sorry. The Scorpion is the tracked version with the
Mm-hmm.
same awful turret. So I think the Iranian ones again in an army that doesn't have that much access to good anti-tank, having 3 points in 6 Jeeps with AT-17 and firepower too, not the worst.
And consider if you're doing an historical matchup, you're facing Iraqis where the absolute best defense against heat is bazooka skirts on the T-72M.
Right.
It can still do a lot of damage. I mean, you go to a tournament and you're having to start facing era armor or even BDD
Oh,
armor is
you're
good.
absolutely ruined.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's like, can you imagine Fire thing at Armada 2 thinking, oh, I'm going to shoot this little APC thing? Goes, no. Go, why? I got cobham armor. I'm armor 16. Just don't.
oh God, doesn't the Bradley also have some kind of absurd armor on it?
But
Uh,
if you have your up armor version, like it and the warrior can have your up armor, and that makes them a plecon, which is basically the same as BDD armor. So 13. For some reason, the Marder 2 is just like tricked out, as you expect the Germans to go. They've gone full Mercedes Benz.
you're
But
right. Yes. Yeah. It's applique armor. That's right. Which
mhm,
is still a whole lot. It's better than some of the tanks in this game. It's
mhm.
almost impressive.
Yeah,
Uh,
again, you put your pitching against your historical opponents, it's more than adequate. So yeah, okay, there you go. And we've
there we
that
go.
hopefully wraps it up.
This has conducted the post peer review portion of science. So moving on to other information in the news.
Breaking
There have been
news.
some changes to forces. This was announced on the day of recording, and well, I see no reason not to include it.
Hmm.
So Battlefront has released a statement, and I just want to start with the very first part of the first sentence. For well over a decade, and I'm like, God damn, Forces is old.
Hmm. But first, it came, I think it appears in version 3.
Does it appear in version 3? Wow.
Yeah, so basically there's a segregated forces. It still exists. So you bought a whole bunch of version 3 lists, you still got access to them. But when they made version 4, they basically split off into separate forces, which then became the main forces going forward. Sorry, yeah, history lesson.
Right. So they said that they're implementing new
Pricing, yeah.
new pricing and new features.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they're like, okay, we're making the printing of your list look better, and we're including downloaded command cards. So here's the demo that they put up, and the list looks pretty same, but actually being able to print out unit cards and more
Man,
importantly command cards.
yeah, I hadn't realized there's a preview, but I was curious what it's going to look like, and this is my worst fear. So
Oh yeah, baby.
it's like, what's that? So previously, when you go, people been going to tournaments by basically taking screen grabs of the forces little version of the card and putting multiples of them on like a Word document. So you get like an entire army's worth of those cards on like a double-sided piece of A4.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing here is literally printing the full-size unit cards. So you're getting at best, well, like you can see there, 2 unit cards per A4 page. It's just like,
I would have preferred. Well,
I know
they
what. So
do put the special rules on the back, so I can see why they include the backside.
yeah, it's a proper unit card. Yeah,
it is a proper full-blown unit card.
I'm guessing they're doing this because it is, when any kind of board game, the main cost is not the miniatures; it's generally the card stock for doing special cards and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
you do one, and really with the unit cards and the command cards, it's one print run. And if you don't get on that first print run, you're not going to get it because they can't afford to do like a small print run.
let me just.
And so this is them. I'm guessing this is them trying to address that as a thing going forward.
Sure.
Also, can I just say,
Mm-hmm.
just go back to it. Just go back to it a second.
Okay, sorry.
That's right.
Nope.
I have a thing on the race here. Battlefront, stop trying to make the Ram Squadron happen, okay? It's not going to happen. You're using the Ram as an example here, trying to lure us into this Ram propaganda. It's like
I don't know what you possibly mean, Lee. Do you not like the better Sherman? It's
it, it is a better. It's just it's like
just a better Sherman.
Why the Canadians bother upgrading? They should just
look at this. It's AT-11.
Yeah, that's £6.
Okay, sure, 4 up. But you lose out on smoke, but still, like, and it's got more machine guns than a Sherman. Maybe, possibly not American
No,
Shermans.
you haven't got the 50 cal, yeah.
You don't have the 50 cal.
Mm-hmm.
But they're cheap and they're hit on 4s.
Yeah. But yes,
they're 4 points a ram. How could you not like the ram?
I am vaguely impressed. I've yet to see a Ram army at like Warfare or the Nationals or anything like that. I'm expecting that to happen soon because they are just so points effective. It's just crazy. But anyway,
I'm
sorry.
also shocked that I haven't seen the competitive meta overrun by countering cheap German armor with equally cheap Canadian Rams in mass quantity.
I feel like it is peak Canadian because they got land mattress in there. They got the Cartuck Grover Danes to Staghounds. It's like a fair play to them for actually making it for a full Canadian.
Love Staghounds?
Staghounds are awesome.
Staghounds are cool.
Let's get put out there. I still want my plastic Staghound. Someone get working on that plastic Staghound, please.
Right, and let's not forget. Always include Duncan's favorite card, Lucky.
We get shot, Duncan.
Oh, we're. I'm still not convinced if we're too mean or not mean enough to Duncan. But anyway.
You do realize that the last one he went to, he took Lucky in it, but he took Lucky to a point left over and made a point of not using it at all during the entire tournament, despite himself. It's just like, wow. That's commitment to the meme. I appreciate
that is definitely commitment to the bit. See, but here's the beautiful thing is now Duncan has the ability to print Lucky cards every tournament so he can tear them up in front of his opponent every time he refuses to use them.
God.
This is A+ work here. I definitely don't like how they've laid this out.
I swear they could have done a
Uh,
condensed version of it or something like.
they
I
absolutely
think
could have
if you
done a
can't
condensed
get
version.
onto a double-sided piece of paper along with the actual, so list is one sheet, then you have a double-sided sheet that has your army list, all the card information on. People still won't really want to use it, and the problem they got is it's a mandatory buy going forward. So you're paying the extra money on your list to have unit cards. You probably want to print it off. You can still do it dance like easier just by literally cutting, pasting the relevant information onto a crib sheet. But they kind of made
You
it a
know,
rod for their own back because they got to do something because they can't do the reprints.
yes,
Yeah,
like
I
we
think.
get it, guys. Battlefront is not Games Workshop. They're not Warlord. They're
Mhm.
not, they they can't keep pumping cards out over and over. I get it.
I mean, even GW
And
doesn't reprint its cards when you get down to it. You don't, generally a limited run whenever a new book comes out. With their unit cards for 40k, you get them then, or you don't get them.
yeah, the index data cards were actually like super limited quantities, it turned out, and hard to get,
Yeah.
especially with how they sent them to local stores. But again, Battlefront is not the biggest company, and the fact that they're like, look, guys, we understand that like people come to this late and they just cannot get command cards,
Mm-hmm.
and no matter what your opinions on command cards may be, command cards are an important part of this game. They unlock lots of stuff. I mean,
Lots of cool
who
themes,
who
historical
can
stuff as well
imagine
as
Bulge German without Kampfgruppe Hummel? I mean,
yeah.
come
Well,
on,
Americans without
it's
HVAC
mandatory.
armor.
Americans without age. That's a real example. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted. I love my stupid 8-point tigers.
Half
They're
crew nil.
terrible, and I love them.
But yeah, so I appreciate them doing it. I just wish it had been an opt-in thing because if I just want to buy the list and like I always did do, not really care about having the class print out, so it'd be nice just to have my little $1 army list, as it were.
Right. So
But on the other hand,
for the
like
next 90 days, you can still unlock them at current prices. So if you
mhm.
are anti this and want to,
No,
you
that's not
know,
true. For the next 90 days, you can upgrade any list you have
oh,
already to
has
have it.
has buying new stuff already gone into effect
Yeah,
at
correct. Yeah, so if you buy a list now, you'll be paying the
uh
$3. But if you already
okay.
have a list and you want to upgrade it to have the ability to print it off,
Okay, so then
can
that's
do
that's an
at
extra
discounted
dollar.
price. Mm.
Okay, so an extra dollar per. So theoretically, you're still only paying
Yeah,
$2 a thing, but like,
but
you know,
but if you know, it really adds to the price of like getting all the book and then but then buying all the cards physically and then possibly buying the cards as a backup thing. We're not quite sure why you do both, but that's kind of the point. So is this saying that going forward, there's no more card packs? Which if that's the case, okay, that's understandable at that point. But yeah, I know it's. I think they kind of got back to the position where no matter what they do, it's going to annoy somebody.
hmm
And like I say, this does at least get around the issue they got where you can't really reprint
it's
the out of
physically
production.
impossible to get
Mm,
packs of card
correct.
packs, yes, and command cards.
Hmm.
I will say, sneaky not mention of Fate of a Nation. Is this the first official mentioning of Fate of a Nation in who knows how long?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, Nam and Fate Nation do at least have a forces, but yes,
And I mean, I
obviously they
think
don't
this
have command cards.
right, but like obviously, and we'll discuss this more in our year in review, but like Nam had a big reprint and re-release.
Hmm.
And so those cards are out there for now, but not for Foan. Never gonna find Foan cards for who knows how long. We'll get to that in predictions.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's such a terrible thing. Uh oh yeah, I see right here. If I don't already own a late war list, how much will it cost me during this 90-day period? And it's already jumped up to 3 and 5, yeah.
Mhm.
USD. Because Battlefront understands real currency.
There you go. So anyway, that's some community news for you all. It's would have been a bit nice if they'd given a bit of a heads up, say, oh, buy a list now before we put the price up, and you don't really care about this. I probably would have gone and actually bought some of them. But hey, I was going back to just doing the old-fashioned way using Excel.
I mean, for my articles, I always send you mass screen grabs from forces. I'm like, I don't know how much of this we're allowed to legally use, but here, editor fix,
That is
editor,
my job, yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, year in review. It is
Year in
indeed just
review.
end of 2023.
We are reaching, we're reaching the end of 2020, part 3.
Yep.
And well, it's there's been a I don't know if there's been a lot of releases or not. It feels like
Feels
nothing
light.
has released this year. It
Hmm.
feels like absolutely nothing has come out this year. Um, but I think that that's also like something to do with the weirdness of uh, the timeline, and then obviously the big. Let's go over what's come out actually. So
Yep.
early January at the beginning of this year, we had Berlin Soviets.
Yes, we did. Right in January. I was
Mhm.
checking on Breakfast Assault trying to work out when we did the various um reviews, as it were. Yeah.
God knows we can't find that information from Battlefront, but we can find it from ourselves.
Yeah. And then then there was a bit of a gap. And then we had the Berlin Germans.
Right, which was said, hey, we saw how well people responded to cheap German equipment. What if we
Double
gave you more
dubbed.
cheap German equipment of all varieties? And everyone went, no, please stop. There were already too many Panthers on the table, and
Mhm.
now we have even cheaper King Tigers. This is madness, Battlefront. Please stop. And Battlefront looked at us and said, no.
Yeah, and then we had two back-to-back Team Yankee things. Was constantly ruining our thing and
Well,
trying to
I
get Team.
think I think the non-re release came out before Nordic Forces, right?
It did, yes. We had Vietnam re-release.
Mm-hmm. And that's when I decided that I needed, um, God, I'm like a dozen Hueys, some Cobras, and some Lokes, because you might as well call me Gary Owen when it comes to them, because I'm all air cav, baby.
You ain't aircraft, you ain't. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, well, it's because if I was going to do well, if I was going to do a NAM force, it'd be ANZAC. So if I could do two of them, then it'd be an air mobile force as well because it just
I'm
looks
gonna
so
be honest,
cool.
I wanted to start a Riverine force, but other people had Riverine forces. I'm like, I have to do something different,
I mean,
because the Riverine board setting up a Riverine game is a lot of work, because it's a lot of rivers and bridges.
yeah, but it looks so awesome, especially in some of the
It
pig
looks
tables I've seen people done for
look.
it.
I was like, I'm not getting into Nom. It's a limited range. It's a bunch of metal and resin and this and that. And then I saw my friend Igor play his Riverine forces on a board, and I'm like, damn, this is cool though. Look at these M boats.
Hmm.
Oh,
Little PT boats as well. That's all good
oh
stuff.
yeah. So I am a fool, but non re-release.
Yeah, but
And
obviously,
then
sorry, guys.
yeah, and then we hit the back to back NATO books for the Norwegians and actual NATO.
Yep. So that sort of filled out a big hole when, like, say, I mean, for ages, people have been saying about when you could do the Northern Front to sort of close out that sort of aspect of the actual war, as
You're
it were,
being generously. They all just went, where S tank?
where
S
S
tank,
tanks
please.
is.
S tank. No look, no turret.
Hmm.
More tank S, please. Battlefront S tank. S tank. That's all anyone ever said anything about Nordic forces before the book came out,
Yeah.
was just the S tank. It's all people cared about.
I even got when we got the S tank goes, what's this? What's this? This is rubbish.
I was told this tank was magic.
This is basically a leopard with a longer barrel gun. Goes, yeah.
Yeah, they put out a very reasonable unit, and everyone went, but we wanted it to be broken and magic. And I think rightfully Battlefront said, I don't think you understand what the S tank does then.
Yeah. This is why it's an evolutionary dead end. It's a
This is why they never did anything after the S tank like this.
yeah.
It was dumb and wrong.
But I just bought Leopard 2s after this. It's like
Don't worry. Nordic Forces 2, you're going to get Leopard tanks.
when version 3 rolls around, yeah, that's it. That's when they start slipping to the 90s and get all the cool stuff. They get the
Oh,
Build 2
God.
and End Wars and all kind of nice cool stuff.
Fourth gen tanks are going to be a nightmare. Uh,
But they will be, but they'll still be vastly outclassed by mass T-55s, just like the third gen tanks are. But magically you have like a rate of fire 3 main gun or something like that.
Oh
But really,
no.
what you do when you're facing a whole T-55 forward is you need like a rate of fire 5 gun to have any chance of actually dealing enough damage to stop it. But
They'll just find some way of giving Bradley's like super depleted uranium rounds that were like mentioned offhanded in a water meeting once.
mhm.
And then they're like, here, AT-27 5-shot Bradleys. Here you go. We finally found a reason to run Bradleys, everyone. Even though Bradleys are cool.
The Bradleys are cool. I know they got a lot of stick during the creation, but it did pay off in the end. So
And
yeah, out of
they
all
made that
that,
on movie about the Bradley, the Pentagon Wars,
that gets
written
quoted
by
like
idiots.
every 15 seconds on the forum on the unofficial Team Yankee group. Yes,
I'm
along
sorry,
with
but if you think the Pentagon Wars is a good movie, I have this wonderful plane to sell you. It's called a Gavin. Ignore that it looks like a 113 that I've super glued balsa wings on. Just fly it off a cliff, test it out. It's gonna work wonderfully. Bring all your friends; they'll fit in the Gavin. It's a magic vehicle.
I see. I didn't know about this whole thing to try and get it named Gavin until this year. I never heard it once called Gavin. I couldn't understand why they call it
Oh my
Gavin.
god, no! It's oh my god. I have a YouTube video to send you later. That is just incredible.
Okay, sounds scary, but okay.
No,
So
no, it's about the Gavin. Don't worry.
so out of all that, what's been your sort of like your highlight for this year in terms of releases?
Oh, we also forgot because it became very late in the year. Is the re-release of Great War?
Yeah, I didn't forget that.
They put out the thing and they're like, look at these Great War forces you can get. I'm like, I have no idea which country is which other than the Germans because they're the only ones with that tank.
Great War jumped the shark the minute they made Americans competent veteran. It was
I'm sorry, what?
Americans in Great War confident veteran. The guys that literally appeared for the last few months of the war.
That doesn't make any
Got all
sense.
the hand me downs from the French and the British, and they're somehow
That doesn't
confident.
make any sense.
No.
I don't. What?
Yeah, it's Great War. I do keep meaning to try Great War, but be fair, both Eddie and Duncan have forces for it, and just concentrate on the actual trench war stuff like British versus Germans, that kind of thing, or French versus Germans. There's, I think there's still a good game there. I think the problem I always have with it is they sort of jump right to the end with Great War. They go, here you are, we're going to do their first tank on tank battle in 19, only tank on tank battle really in 1917, and this
Yeah, no, my great complaint with the Great War as Battlefront has done it is there's not nearly enough artillery pieces and there's far too many tanks.
mm-hmm.
Like you should only ever be allowed to run a single tank in a Great War game.
Let's do in Cambrai, in which case you have 600, half of which break down. But yeah, it's just like I was always waiting for them to do something cool like the Eastern Front or the war in the Alps or Gallipoli, and yeah, no, it's just gonna be the Blackadder bit. Fantastic.
That's all anyone knows about the Great War is the Blackadder bit. What
Uh,
do you mean, Lee?
get Mike Everett started on Blackadder and the damage it's done, the cultural impact of the Great War in the modern psyche. It's
I think you're being far too cruel to Blackadder.
the problem is it just repeats a lot of tropes, like the whole like led by donkeys kind of thing, ignoring the fact that actually British doctrine had gone for a massive overhaul since what's on that kind of thing to actually revolutionize how it did like combined fire and all this. It's just like but hey, it's
Nope,
still
nope. You put a bunch of private boys schools in charge and everyone died. That's how the Great War worked. Or public
it's still,
school boys. I forget. It's the other way around in England.
yeah, it's still a good ending. So yeah, anyway, so what was your favorite? So what was your favorite release out of it, out of this year?
Uh I mean, I gotta go with Berlin Soviets. It's finally like okay, they finally released the part where we let the Soviets have all the cool equipment that everyone loves about the Soviets and not be an unbelievably expensive army to run.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Red Banner Rifle Regiment runs the right balance between mass and expense from a consumer standpoint, where like you can finally run a big regiment of Soviet infantry with all the trimmings,
Mhm.
but it doesn't take 3 hours to set up and it will not bankrupt you to buy. And I'm big fan of that. I'm a little disappointed that the only new plastic they were going to put out was Soviet Shermans. I'm like, sure,
So Sherman's
you
should have
should
been
have
out in
released those.
Russian, but
Yeah, you
yes,
should have released those forever ago.
and the dry hole version right in mid-war. They had Lend-Lease Shermans in mid-war. But yeah, it is a solid list. I faced Nathan's shot group so many times, and it is obscene, that thing. It
Oh, they
just hits
added
his
Soviet
hits his.
M10s as well. I forgot about those.
Oh
They were
yeah,
just like, oh yeah, we forgot to flip the lend lease switch. Let's do that now.
uh, M10s always feel a little bit redundant in the Soviet list.
You
Oh,
mean
good,
in an
more
army that
anti-tank
has
12.
IS-2s and Su-100s that an
Yeah,
M10 feels a little less? Hmm.
my main battle tank is packing a gun that hits with the same harness at N10 and has HE. But yeah, well, I think needless to say, my favorite was obviously the Anzac list out of NATO forces. Seems that's what I'm currently working on.
It look,
The surprise hit.
the only reason that Anzacs are probably not my top pick is because I cannot find LAVs anywhere in the United States. They don't exist. I know you cleaned out all of England,
Mhm.
but for a long time it's been, at least in California, because obviously California, it's surprisingly hard to find Marine Corps equipment for this hobby. Stupid, incorrect opinions of Californians thinking the Marine Corps is good. Ugh, Army better.
I blame San Diego. Clearly, that's
Obviously, they bought all of California's stock.
But yeah, so I mean, it's just the same thing because I was always dead set against the Australians. All it takes me to flip my allegiance is just a list that combines Lavs and M1A1s and actual vague
It's
useful information. I go, you know what? I am a massive hypocrite, and I'm going to jump on this bandwagon.
uh I'm not gonna lie, I've always been like, look, I buy into both factions too many times. And Nam was like, I'm only gonna buy Americans. That's it. I'm gonna buy all the infantry, I'm gonna buy the helicopters. I'm still kind of tempted to buy all the boats because it's the exact same infantry across the board, so I don't have to
Yeah, yeah,
buy
it's
more infantry. That just seems like, and I can run two kinds of stupid lists that only work in very specific scenarios. Genius.
But as you can say,
This is
the air
big brain plays.
mobiles, it plays different to all the other. No, it's not just
Yes.
infantry with some tanks. It is
Yes.
it plays radically different to all the other lists. That's what I love
Right.
about it.
And then, for a long time, my stance on Team Yankee is like, NATO, whatever. Like, I'd rather have this Soviet stuff that I can just change what the country is, and then suddenly, like, all my stats are radically different. It's how I started with a Soviet force and then became an East German player. I'm like, but what if the stupid T-72s are the only good tank I have access to? Now suddenly the T-72B is good because it's my only third generation tank.
As I've always said, when it comes to T-72, it's rubbish in a Soviet list. It's actually really good as a T-72M or T-72B in, like say,
Mm-hmm.
the Warsaw Pact list. Its price point's nice. The actual extra skill, which you don't pay a premium for on them, generally works quite
Yes.
nicely with them. So yeah.
And the best thing is you can go around saying, I'm the best Germans. We are the McDonald's Germans, and thus we are unstoppable.
Well, yes. So that's it. But it's West Germany versus best Germany.
Yes,
It's
obviously. Best Germans forever. Never let them take your little walkie mans away, Germans. I stand with you.
So yeah, it feels like this year was a little light because they did re-releases of the two specialist games. So that's obviously adding to a bit of the release schedule.
But not only that, but like Flames of War hitting the end of late war, I
Mm.
feel also kind of took a little bit of the wind out of everyone's sails. Like, look, I'm a fan of Team Yankee. I play I play Team Yankee, but I think we can pretty much agree that like the flagship product of Battlefront is Flames of War.
Hmm.
And with hitting the end of late war and Pacific and early war being like something that's vaguely mentioned in last year's Christmas video and not really mentioned by anybody since.
No. Almost to a point where we're sort of starting to merge into predictions now.
We are sort of kind of merging
Yeah,
into predictions.
I could have sworn originally like the plan was Pacific for an early war, but now it feels like it's gonna be early war then Pacific. I think it's switched around a little bit.
Because
Also, Italy was meant to appear in some form this year, and it
oh
seems to have
yeah,
largely
like
been.
the command card pack that they said would.
Well, it's gone from being a car pack. Last time Pete talked about it, it's almost like it's going to be like a series of web articles, and that'd be it. So yeah, it's just and that's disappeared again entirely. It's just like maybe
Mhm.
listen to us saying it was a proper Italian book. Somehow I doubt it,
I
but I can hope.
I kind of doubt they're doing that. I think something just got pushed because they had to switch production lines to World of Tanks because that's actually somehow popular and selling is my bet.
Is it though? I've yet to see
I have no
anybody
idea.
ever talk about it. Oh, no,
Have no idea.
yeah. Have you ever seen anyone play it, Daniel? Like, well, you got your issue with local at the moment, but did you see anyone play it originally when it first came out?
No,
No?
but not including like the Flames of War players who are buying those packs to be like, I need a single Sherman to finish out my list, and I'm not
Yeah.
buying a whole box. I'll just buy a pre-assembled one, and off we go. Like
Mhm.
that's how I got my. That's how I got. I went from 2 to 3 Pershings. It's just like I'm not gonna buy a box of Pershings. That's
That was what's great
ridiculous.
about tanks. Tanks was great for getting that one spree we needed.
Yeah,
A bit of premium, but yeah. So it's just like yeah.
I,
But we know there's a big thing. They've got their releases worked out, which I still think a lot of those releases, certainly the back half, will be like the Checkpoint Charlie kit. Yeah, your sort of like the old Conquerors, the M106 heavy tanks, and all that other stuff you
mhm.
need for like doing like a 1960s Checkpoint Charlie game. But yeah, it just feels a bit weird. I'm still hoping for a plat, but what I want is my Italian book with plastic, Sherman free, dry hole. There you are. How hard's that? Writes itself. Michael buy gazillion of them. At least that.
I will not.
Oh, I meant other Mike. Sorry, yes.
No.
You're rational when it comes to Italy. But yeah, I am sucking on the Tita hopium for Italy more than I am for my Cowboys actually getting through the playoffs and beating the Eagles. But
It's never gonna happen.
I know I don't. I'm trying to be pragmatic about it. Um, but yeah, I also think that's never going to happen with the Italians. But so, what do you think we're going to see next year? Then, what's the betting? Where are you going to be putting your money on? What do you think is going to emerge in the video?
Oh, so I think that they are going to announce not one, but 2 late war compilation books. One
Yep.
for the Western Front, one for the Eastern Front.
Oh, okay.
Be
I've
because if you think about the mid-war books, it was North Africa and the Eastern Front divided down into roughly an equal number of books. I don't think that they're going to break it down by timeline because that's too many books. That's 4 books. I think
mm-hmm.
even Battlefront does not have the audacity to be like, yes, here's the Berlin compilation book. I'm like, it's 2 books. Battlefront, stop. Like D-Day kind of makes sense because for some reason Battlefront made it 4 books.
Mm-hmm.
There should have only been 1 German book. If the way they handled the significantly worse parts of the German army as command cards in future releases
Work
is the
better.
smart and correct
Mm.
way to have done that instead of releasing all of the exact same formations in a whole new book with different soft stats.
Mm-hmm. Just some
That
fancy
was
camouflage
not.
uniforms. Yes.
Yes, people were not happy about that.
Mm-hmm. So that's fine, splitting it by theatre, but I think you do end up with a bit of repetition. 'Cause obviously, you have to have like King Tiger lists in both books, for example, and Panzer
Do
IV formation.
you?
Well, I
Do
mean, there were
you?
King Tigers on the Eastern Front. I mean, it's definitely something more associated with the Western Front, but they were there. Yeah, I mean, Panthers definitely only be in the Western book. They don't really appear in the Eastern Front until very late on when they're practically in Germany.
Yes, and in Berlin you can get the heavy tank training company, and they come with King Tigers, and there you go. There's your
Yeah.
King Tigers that appeared in the Eastern Front. It's when the Eastern Front came to Berlin.
I
Weird.
mean, but let's face it, I'm going to buy both books anyway, even if they did do an East-West
That,
split,
that
because. But, yeah. But I do
now
think there'll be some sort. I can after the North Africa and Eastern Front, I can see there being some sort of compilation book. I was thinking more like D-Day compilation, Bulge compilation, Eastern Front compilation, because Bagration and Berlin. I agree, a Berlin compilation doesn't make sense, but a Berlin Bagration compilation probably could have worked.
I mean, I'm still calling a Berlin bagration. You know, it'll be the Soviets, the Germans, and they'll throw in the Finns, the Hungarians, and the Romanians
Yeah, makes
for
sense.
completionist sake.
Mhm.
And if you go Bulge and D-Day, then it's just like, here's 3 books. Like the numbers don't add up. Like even the mid-war books were multiple, like half a dozen books.
Yeah,
No one's gonna buy a D-Day compilation. No one's gonna buy a Bulge compilation. They're like, what's the point of having a compilation that doesn't have all of my American lists, all of my British lists? Like obviously
that's fair.
the East-West split is gonna be really obnoxious for German players. I'm sorry you have 7 books. I'm not sorry. Stop having so many books, German players.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So it's like you're the major antagonist of this show, but
It's almost like you're the Space Marines of this game. Like there's too many of you. You've got too many books, too many releases, too much stuff.
I was just going to make a joke about the analogy, but definitely get us demonetized.
And
Uh,
because the mid-war monsters played out so well, each of those books will also have theater appropriate late war Leviathans, which everyone will love, just like they love mid-war monsters.
yeah,
I just do not think that Battlefront will release late war Leviathans as a separate book because, like we mentioned earlier, print costs are very expensive,
Mhm.
and they know 80% of the player base are just going to be upset.
Yeah. I mean, I did like the idea of a proper 1946 setting, and you'd have the appropriate list split in there, but you do end up reprinting mostly the Bulge and Berlin books in that regard, so it probably makes more sense. I don't mind them being the book, just mark them out very specifically as being these are a late war monster thing, just so it's really easy for TOs and to do a historically themed one by just cutting them out. It's really hard to do that with the way they integrate into the mid-war compilations.
Yeah, like in the mid-war ones, I originally thought that like, oh, they're all wild card, and you as a TO you just say no wild card units, and you
Hmm.
just solve the. But no, that's not how that
You had
worked.
the
They had
formation ones. That's the
real
problem.
formations of made up tanks, and people were upset.
Yeah.
Uh, so maybe this time they won't go with the whole hog formations, or they'll just call it a wild card formation. So at the
Yeah.
very least, TOs can go no wild cards.
Yeah. That
Like
works. Yeah.
some little move to make life a little bit easier for people to be like, please
Mhm.
don't bring the broken fantasy tanks.
Yeah.
They, because I'm sorry, but like, what has happened to mid-war since the release of KV3s?
I don't because most tournaments are playing took the effort and actually banned all the mid-war monster stuff. But yes.
Right, right. But if you ask Fez,
Hmm.
in the unbridled, unrestricted, like if Battlefront released it, it's a legal thing. KV3s are everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the UK just took a very hardline attitude. So stuff like the Nationals and ETC just don't have them. But
Oh,
it's just
ETC had them.
it
ETC
noticed
had them.
only
It
the ones that actually saw service, which the mid-war monsters I don't really mind. The actual stuff like the Stir Emils and Dick and Max, the stuff that actually had combat experience, the Panzer One Es, they were allowed. The 1790s as well. But stuff like Boarhounds, the Tog, the T14, they weren't in.
Okay, look, I'm sorry, hold on, pause. I have to put a caveat on my stance on mid-war monsters. The Tog is a beautiful mess and an absolute disaster, and I absolutely have one in my British army for the sake of it's a single Tog and it brings me a 17 pounder. I need something to help all my Crusaders while they die like dogs.
Yeah. But also, I always like the
Poor
idea of
Crusaders.
taking a unit of 2 Togs and doing the Tog conga line, just blocking off an entire quarter just with 2 tanks.
No, 2 Togs is too many. They only ever made the 1 Tog, and that's the Tog I brought to this game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a way to embrace it. Okay, so what else do we think we're going to see? I think compilations is a good bet.
What's your first prediction, Lee? And then I'll come back around to mine
Foan,
after.
re-release of Foan. It's they re-released released with Great War inexplicably before Foan. Even Foan's the greatest game they ever wrote. So a re-release of Foan, with a plastic Centurion, maybe even a plastic M48 by then, backing up the release schedule. I think it's got to be a shoe-in.
Well, I think the Foan re-release will coincide with it's good that you mentioned this because my second prediction, I think the Foan re-release will also coincide with whatever they're gonna call Oil Wars version 2, which I'm also expecting out this year. They'll be like, the desert, the Middle East again. And that's where, we'll get the Foan re-release. We'll get because my prediction is that the infantry won't change in between. Your Israeli infantry will stay the same. Your Iranians, Iraqis, Syrians, whatever. And they'll just want to do all the infantry at once. So if you go back to back Foan Oil Wars or vice versa, whichever direction you want to do, you can just print all the infantry for both releases at once.
But the Arab
and they'll save themselves.
The Israeli infantry are different. They're very different equipped between Foan and Oil Wars.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, very completely different military range.
They'll save a bunch of money on the Arab forces.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I mean,
by
the Iraqi figures were basically
again.
Egyptian figures. Because basically, Soviet guys without tunics on. It's basically that entire model range. But yeah, so absolutely, I can see that. And like I say, it's the only version 1 Team Yankee book that hasn't been updated yet. I could see that coming in. I could see Israelis getting a new plastic kit for the Merkava Mark III with a 120mm. I wonder if we might see Era appear on the M60s and maybe put the Centurions in.
Right,
Syrians.
because if you look, like there is overlap. Like I'm looking at the Syrians on forces right now, and like in Foan they've got T-34s, T-54s, and T-62s. In an Oil Wars they had T-72Ms, T-62s, T-55s.
Yeah.
Obviously BMP-1s and BTR mech battalions. So like in one version you add like actual foot infantry and T-34s, and in the other version you add T-72s, but like reprinting T-62s and T-55s and BMP-1s and BTR as well. They already print all that stuff all the time. It's all the Soviet equipment. So it'll be very easy for them to be like, okay, here are the BTR-50s, the PT-76s, and all the infantry that we need to make, plus like the Fresco fighters.
Yeah. I'm really surprised that, I keep saying this every time I have a kind of Warsaw pack related release for Team Yankee. I'm surprised the PT-76 has not been bought out of retirement, considering it's still, especially when you start dealing with all these like third line sort of like Soviet aligned forces, which still have PT-76 as their main recce tank. You have the model. Why not just re-release it and put it back into the range?
I think that's going to be part of the Foan thing, because or not the Foan thing, the Foan and forces of the Arab world, or whatever they're going to call this thing, because they can't call it like, I guess they can call it Arab forces. I don't know, but then
because these Israelis are kind of mess it up.
People would be upset, Team Yankee Middle East. I don't know, like whatever the hardest part of this book is going to be naming it.
Let's face it, I'm most vague surprised this didn't come out when everything kicked off in Israel, given Battlefront's normal timing on sensitivity releases. But just Pete going, oh,
I bet they must have had a thing in the can. They're like, push it all back to next year, saying nothing. That's why this was secretly so light, is they had another comically cringy like re-release thing, and they're like, no, we learned our lessons from Russia. We're not releasing
book,
with we learned our lesson with the Warsaw Pact book. We're not making that blunder a second time.
But yeah, I do think we'll probably see that, and like I said, I could see that being linked with, like I say, the Foan release.
Sure, and I'm sure it'll be full
Mhm.
of T-72Bs
The
for the
Syrians, because
various
Syrians, yeah,
for the Syrians and the Iraqis.
right, Iraq's probably a bit harder because obviously they've fallen out by the Soviets by this time by fluff.
Mm,
But
yeah,
I could see captured T-72Ms for the Iranians.
sure, yeah.
You could possibly even see captured chieftains for the Iraqis. So that might be an interesting thing to mix it up.
Hmm.
Um,
The
obviously,
Syrians will have actual stuff.
well,
Will
see,
they add another nation?
I like to see them to put the Syrians in properly because in reality they did have T-72Ms, but initial deliveries were proper T-72As with the BDD
Mm,
armor. The Syria was,
yeah.
very heavily aligned with the Soviets. They were rewarded by getting some actually Gucci kit. Obviously, then they were also aligned with the French. They have this bizarre thing. They had Milan's and Gazelle helicopters are hot as well. But
Yes, they do have those things. I imagine
Iraq,
some of the fancy French kit will splash over into Iraq.
yeah, I could see Iraq also getting BMP2s. Again, it was kind of surprised they weren't in the All Wars, but they caught because All Wars kind of does Gulf War, and they received BMP2s in the late 80s, just before the Gulf War. I was surprised they weren't in
Sure.
there.
I could definitely see Syrians and Iraqis getting the Warsaw Pact treatment of like
Mhm.
you can get a unit of BMP2s
Yeah,
just to punch it all up.
yeah. So another thing I found out quite recently was Iraq had a small number of BMDs as well for an air assault unit. They never actually really fully materialized with. They ended up being used just like
Really?
BMPs, but just be a kind of it'd be kind of funny
Hmm.
running as a proxy for a BMP formation in Iraqi force.
That would be funny. I would laugh.
I think
Uh,
another thing you might see is like a Gulf coalition army list. So basically, the Saudis, Qatar, the Free Kuwait force as like a combined force with various mixed units. Because in the Gulf War, they sort of fought as a combined coalition. So you'd have like MX tanks, you'd have Kuwaitis, chieftain tanks, A4 Skyhawks and the Free Kuwaiti Air Force,
mhm.
Saladin armored cars. There's lots you could do with that as a little kind of like interesting list covering off multiple nations, maybe as one combined force.
Sure, but what does Battlefront be willing to print? And I think it's they'll
Mhm.
stick more existing kits into
Well,
the
hence the
Arab
MX,
nations.
yeah, because a lot
Yeah.
of it is stuff that already exists AMX 30s, chieftain kits,
Hmm.
A4 Skyhawk kit.
Right,
Mhm.
newer, fancier, splashy versions of existing Soviet kits. Like, I don't know. If we want to get really wild, the Syrians can take a single three-man, company of T-80s or something like that, just to be like, no, the Syrians still get the real Gucci kit, but
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
like I said, I can see the Syrians getting T-72Bs definitely. That'd be an interesting thing to mix it up.
Hmm.
I just wonder if you might see like as an extra list if you didn't do that Gulf cooperative thing. I said Jordanians, they're sort of sitting around in this time period. They've got an interesting mix of stuff like
Yeah.
chieftains in there and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the Jordanians have like a long-standing history of like being one of the allies of the West. Like when I was in
Mhm.
Afghanistan, we had a Jordanian contingent on base.
Yeah, Jordanians always kind of they have a really weird dynamic because they are very heavily Western aligned. All their officers go to Sandhurst. There are a lot of ties in with the British military.
Hmm.
But then they kept getting dragged into being on the Arab side versus Israelis. And then in the first Gulf War, they are allied with Iraq, where Syria is technically on the same coalition as everyone else is versus Saddam Hussein. They kind of the king of Jordan's constantly trying to have to fight this weird middle ground to basically not have a coup effectively. So it
Yeah.
has to balance Arab populism versus Western sensibilities. So it's a really
And
interesting dynamic where they would fit in the actual Team Yankee universe. It's quite interesting.
I do think that they'll include a section in the back of the book
Hmm.
where it's like how to do Desert Storm
Yeah,
because they will not be able to help themselves.
yeah. Well,
They're
we
like,
see the
you
Brit
know,
book and the American book both had sections about the Gulf War and how to theming forces around it.
right.
Whereas the All Wars book was really all it was. It had its section about doing historical Iraq-Iran war. But yeah, there's got to
Yeah.
be a thing about doing a historical Iraqi force first in the Gulf War.
Right, because Team Yankee is definitely pushing into the 90s.
Hmm.
So It's time to do Desert Storm and Shield properly this time, I guess, instead
Yeah.
of just being like, paint them khaki.
Yeah. Especially now Brits actually get Milan too, so they actually have the right stuff now.
Gross.
There's no kill like
Unnecessarily
overkill.
expensive. Yeah.
It's like
And
rolling up to playing. It's probably Team Yankee. You take a historically themed British force and you spank out all your points on completely redundant up armored warriors and challengers. And the
yep.
opponent's got, what you got? I've got 100 T55s that haven't been softened
Historically
up by
accurate 100
which have, yeah,
T55s.
but haven't been softened up by 2 weeks of intense air combat with B-52s literally cluster bombing the living daylights out of them, A-10s walking over them. So you're literally facing 100 T-55s rather than the 10 T-55s that are actually still operational. So, and aren't dug in, actually moving around and stuff. So yeah,
Right.
it's I remember once going to Salute, the big tournament we have, a big sort of event we have in the UK for
Yeah.
mixed wargaming, and seeing you always occasionally see some guy running an historically correct like Gulf War game and have like dug in T-55s and a bunch of Abrams or Challengers, and it always seemed like the dullest game possible because if you're the ally player, all you can just do is just move and kill things, which is fine. So if it gets boring really quickly, and a
Mhm.
rocket player just sort of sat there taking it.
And
Please,
died.
sir, can I have
Yeah.
another? Please, sir, can I have another? Please, sir, can I have another? It's like,
Like that's the thing is sometimes people are like, we've made the most historical recreation rules possible to accurately depict. I'm like, I want to play a game. I don't want to play history. Stop. I
correct.
do not want these super intense recreations on the tabletop. If you
Surely you
can
can do
put it
historically
on a
correct.
computer game and shove all of that accurate like recreation stuff under the hood where I don't
Yeah.
need to learn 50 rules about walking down streets at night, we can talk about properly and accurately recreating things, but
Mhm.
otherwise I'm out. I'm hard out.
Correct. It's professional war gaming where you do all that kind of thing, and it's like tabletop war gaming. We just want to have a fun game. Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to play another. I don't want to go to and see another recreation of the Battle of Grozny. Was just like this is a horrifying conflict. But what enjoyment are you possibly getting out of this entire thing?
I need to Google the Battle of Grozny now
It's
because I've never heard
Chechnya.
of this.
It's basically
Oh,
where the Russians just get sort of power mauled by guys who knew exactly how they fight because they've been they all have the same tactical
they'd
playbook
been
and really
trained
bad.
in the Warsaw
Yeah.
Pact playbook. Yeah. Chechnya, very, very brutal. Yeah, 94, 95. Ugh.
Yeah,
That is a
but
lot
it was a
of killing.
recurring thing. You couldn't go salute and not see at least one person with some sort of damn recreation of the Chechen conflict. It's just like, I mean, I can only assume they just really like Warsaw Pact kit and having an army which has it on both sides was just a Nevada for them, as it were. But Nirvana,
Mhm.
sorry, not Nevada. Uh, Nevada. This could be. Yeah. So what do you think we get? So obviously World War II side, early war, I think is what most people assume we're going to see next year. Probably
Well, I
kitting for
mean,
the
I
Battle of
think
France,
people assume early war because they were like, behold,
a
Plastic
plastic
Panzer
Plastic II.
2.
Yeah.
Pew pew pew.
And why would you do that if you weren't making that a
If you
priority?
right, and
Mhm.
when Berlin Germans were coming out, and Pete's like, and we have a Plastic Panzer 2. I wonder what we could be possibly doing with that. And I'm like, well, you're not going to go to the Pacific first now, obviously, because like you have a Plastic Panzer 2 ready to go.
Yeah.
This we live in late stage capitalism. You need to like you know make good on this investment as soon as possible. So I guess the
Mhm.
next thing is early war,
Yeah. Which I
which
think
rip to my friends who desperately want to play the Imperial Japanese Army for some reason.
but I mean, I think, like I say, we'll see France kick it all off, but Poland and France are probably one or two. So plastic A13s, plastic Suma tanks, maybe plastic Chubbies, maybe some little plastic Polish tankettes with 20mm water cannons
Maybe.
and little
They'll
Vickers six
definitely bring
tonners.
back the Polish cavalry models
Mm-hmm.
because they can't help themselves. If we're lucky, they'll leave the trains away.
I mean, the train models look great, but they're an absolute nightmare to ever try and get into a game. As a tournament organizer, I hated them because they just messed tables up.
Right, right.
Mhm.
I think Eddie would crash through your wall and assault you if we did not mention the Luftlandesturm.
I think they're going to skip them. It's such a niche army. Why do you bother bringing those back?
But the
They
same
got
reason
that
they put
plastic
in the
glider kit.
training companies. Yeah, I
They got,
mean, they're not going to put out a plastic glider kit. They'll
no,
sell
they have.
resin gliders again.
No, there was a plastic in version 3. There was a plastic German glider kit.
That is absolutely insane.
It was a real thing. They
There,
have.
this cannot be. Oh, I'm going to Google this. I don't believe it. I don't believe you.
I remember seeing them being assembled. That does mean when we get to our Flames of War airplane ranking, we are going to put the glider in. It has a model.
Oh my
Look at
God.
plastic glider,
I assault gliders, the plastic sprue. It's 4 pieces. It's literally the
wing, fuselage,
fuselage
fuselage.
and then the tail the tail rudders.
Hmm.
Oh, and the skids, of course. It did come with optional MG gunners.
Yeah,
Comes with 4 gliders, 4 Fallschirmjäger gunners, and a decal sheet.
yeah. Basically, a platoon's worth of gliders. It was because obviously each glider carried a squad.
I'm sorry. Hold on. I need to bring this to the people. Look at the. Hold on. Let me get up right in here. Look how big this man is compared to the rest of the glider.
Because the gliders are tiny. You don't appreciate how compact those gliders are until you see a picture of the Fallschirmjäger guys inside of it, all scrunched in. You ever look at a picture of the actual one?
I've never seen I've never seen the actual gliders, to be fair,
Mhm.
but I've just seen this model. I'm like, my God, this man is as wide as the glider is.
But it's like you think a Waco glider is small
Incredible.
for what it's carrying, and then you see how the Germans just cram these guys in. It's just crazy stuff. But yeah, so early war. I think we'll definitely see that.
Yeah, do you have any other predictions for next year?
So if we assume it's going to be 2 books for Team Yankee, which seems to be a fairly, I mean, it's only been 1 year we haven't had that, which is a COVID year when Red Dawn was anything that came out. Um, I think Oil War will definitely be a re-release. I wonder if we might then start seeing some sort of movement to Pacific to then sort of segue and doing the Pacific book for Flames War late afterwards. But I think otherwise, what I'd like to see is a proper Southern Front book for Europe, doing let's say Italy, Greece, Turkey, and then having the Warsaw Pact version with Bulgaria, Romania, possibly
They'll
Yugoslavia.
never give Mike what he wants.
But yeah, cool. We'll see how right or wrong we are. Probably next week, I think. I expect it'll be next week we get the State of the Union video if they are going to do one.
I'm sorry, I've been distracted. I was distracted by trying to find pictures of the interior of these gliders, and I'm having a
I'll,
hard time.
I'll
But
find it and put it in the actual when I do the video editing. So trust me,
okay.
I've seen the picture around, and like I say, these guys are crammed in.
One of the common results was flying coffin, though, and I'm like, that good.
Oh yes, well any glider, no, it's like it's a horrendous way to enter a battle at the best of times, but it does have a advantage of like shock and awe effectively. But helicopter assaults would achieve much later. But yeah, so that's what
Fair.
we're. Anything else we got on predictions? I think that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, we'll be having our D-Day event for the patrons.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, on the weekend of D-Day, just to line it all up there. I should hopefully be going to Warfare. Eddie will be running Warfare, so Warfare will be
The full.
D-Day themed. So it'll be I'm going to try and get a British Armour squadron put together.
Oh, where will you find a British armor squadron? Oh, wait, you already have comets. What
Well,
more do
no,
you need?
but if I go D-Day, I'm going to have to assemble a whole bunch of those rubbish open fire Shermans I've got. But I've been lingering for like years at me. Every time I look at the box, I think,
How
ugh.
many fireflies do you have? Do you have enough fireflies to do this?
I have a whole. So I basically grabbed a whole bunch of people's sprues off them. I have a whole squadron worth of those Shermans, including the Fireflies. In fact, I think I had some spare fireflies, so I could do a two. For later version, we have 2 fireflies to a troop rather than one
You can get
firefly.
around it. You can just run Cromwells instead.
I could do. I
They're
got these
not
cromwells.
comically pointed.
They are awfully pointed.
Then just run Churchills. You've got Churchills, right? There you go. Easy army, 5 models.
I have got Churchills. I could do a Churchill formation for late war. That feels like the easy option. I don't like doing the easy option. I only do the crazy option. I hate myself for later. So yeah, we'll see. Stay tuned. 11th Armored, finding the Sherman version. 11th Armored. I've been meaning to do for years. So yeah. Anything else? I think we've covered everything.
I think that is just about it.
Well, we are. So of course, the other auspicious thing we didn't mention happening in 2023 was we launched this very podcast.
That is right.
Back in March, I believe. Was it March or April?
Oh no!
Episode 1, April
April
22. I uploaded it apparently.
Oh my god!
So yeah, this is our first. We're approaching 9 months, I guess, at this point into the actual this experiment in transatlantic wargaming podcasting. And very fun it has been too.
Yeah. So, So as we are eventually coming up on our 1 year anniversary, I guess, get in the comments and tell us what you'd like to see. Should we go back to episode 1 and reevaluate late war starters? Should we reevaluate all our lists to see if our opinions have changed at all? I doubt it. I'm a hard-headed person.
I don't think there's been anything radical to change them either, no. But yeah, so there you are. As always, leave your comments below. What you think? Do we miss anything else out in the wheeled armored cars? I don't think we did. I think we've now comprehensively covered wheeled armored cars.
I think we were either covered by the things that we admitted to having forgotten last episode and the things that we had actually 100% forgotten even in the moment. Now, the science is complete. Please don't spam LAVs, Humvees, and VBLs if you would like to have friends. I will die on this hill. Please have friends.
Friends are good.
I insist.
In these trying times, you need your friends, that's for sure. So yeah, so listeners, please have a good Christmas. Have a responsible New Year of board gaming, hopefully. That's what I'm going to be having, a little board gaming get-together on New Year's Eve. And then in the new year, we shall be doing something. We haven't quite worked out yet. Some sort of ranking, probably. But we shall see. I'm right now creating a big master list of all the units in Team Yankee.
Of literally all units. This started off with Lee sending me like a whole page worth of just 113 variations. And I'm like, oh no, first the LAVs, now the VBLs. I've created and now M113s. I've created a monster.
You could do a whole episode of just M113 variants. It's scary how many M113 variants there are in this game.
But we'll never be able to include the Gavin. Battlefront refuses to make rules for it.
The Gavin. Gavin just sounds like, sort of the US equivalent of Dave. It's just like that reliable name. It's reliable but boring. Gavin. Well, the thing is, General Gavin, you'd like to say, what is he's an airborne general? Why are you naming it M113 after an airborne general?
Because
didn't know the importance
of
catching
flying M113, hence airborne.
But surely there's some good airborne generals you can name it after, not the guy who apparently couldn't work out capturing the bridge was really important compared to capturing the high ground. But hey, I digress.
The reformers are fools, and they love other fools.
Anyway, so yep, have a good Christmas. We shall see you on the side. Mike, you want to do your normal?
Yes, remember to like, share, and subscribe because I am only fueled by the love and support of strangers on the internet. Remember to watch every episode of Time of Day, and we'll see you next year. Bye.
Bye.
But here we are.
I don't mind. It reminds you to start recording as well. So
yes, you know what? You got me there.
So on my big unit list so far, I have done NATO forces, Nordic
Oh my god.
forces,
Oh my god.
Warsaw Pact, and Red
Oh my
Dawn.
god.
It's actually sorry, just doing Warsaw Pact. It's actually not too bad. The more books I do, the less I have to do in the following ones because most I've ticked off most of the USR units between the first two books.
Wait, I'm
I have to
confused.
make my mic disappear.
Aren't you